On Sunday, President Trump had had enough. He pointedly tweeted, "I hereby demand, and will do so officially tomorrow, that the Department of Justice look into whether or not the FBI, DOJ infiltrated or surveilled the Trump campaign for political purposes, and if any such demands or requests were made by people within the Obama administration." Well, Trump has good spidey sense. This is nothing new in a way. On March 4th, 2017, more than a year ago, President Trump contended that his phones were tapped just prior to the election. And of course, the Get Trump media and the deep state all dismissed it. It was all a bunch of nonsense. Well, of course, we now know that the Justice Department sought and secured permission to surveil Trump advisor Carter Page, whom you'll hear from in just a moment. The problem was that the 2016 Page FISA warrant was obtained in part using fraudulent information from that infamous Steele dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign. Now, again, reset your brain for a moment. Think about that. In the middle of a presidential election, when a man who's running for president is vowing to drain the swamp, there could have been a plot hatched at the senior levels of our government to entrap secondary figures in the Trump campaign to ultimately get to Donald Trump himself. Then those figures were targeted and surveilled, again, even possibly Trump himself. Well, of course, Democrats laughed all this off as spurious.
This claim by the president, the suggestion by Giuliani that there is a political spy embedded in the Trump campaign is nonsense. And you hear it in the same terms that Trump often speaks, which is people are saying, or I'm hearing, or we're being told. That's another way of saying this is patently untrue, but we would like to spread it anyway. And it's singularly destructive of our institutions, but then that's the point.
No, Congressman Schiff, the point is, day by day, we learn more information that seems to indicate that the government may have used its prosecutorial and investigative powers for a political end. To do what? Well, to stop candidate Trump. And when that failed, to derail his presidency. This is the deep state in action. I think it's really unwise to dismiss out of hand the notion that the FBI could have found it within itself to spy on the Trump campaign. Oh, they never would have done that. Well, as the Federalist David Harsanyi reminds us, John Brennan spied on the legislative branch and lied about it to the American people. James Clapper spied on the American people through a domestic surveillance program and lied about it to Congress. And although the Obama administration never tweeted any nasty attacks on journalists, it did spy on and prosecute them. It's completely plausible, then, that those in the upper echelon of law enforcement saw Trump as a threat, then used wobbly evidence as the pretext to investigate his campaign. Close quote. It's a great piece, by the way. For more than a year now, the president and the House Intel Committee, led by Devin Nunes, has sought the initial unredacted documents that sparked this collusion probe. Well, today, the FBI director and the deputy AG have agreed to give congressional members access to highly classified documents about the Russia probe. Now they want to see the information concerning the FBI informant, who reportedly cozied up to at least 3 Trump associates. Now, whether you call this guy a spy or an informant or just a mole, who cares? That's just semantics. According to reports, the FBI sent this informant out to make contact with Carter Page, George Papadopoulos, and Sam Clovis. Now, this informant reportedly had a sit-down with Carter Page in early July of 2016. Well, that's interesting, because that undermines former FBI Director Jim Comey's contention that the FBI didn't begin its investigation until late July. Incidentally, between 2012 and all the way up to 2018 now, according to public records, this same informant received more than $1 million for kind of general foreign policy research. And he conducted this all through the Department of Defense. Another interesting point. Well, it's all very fishy. Come on, many questions remain about this, and they're unanswered. Today, following that White House meeting, the president said he has been able to get the Justice Department to authorize another Inspector General probe into these spy allegations. Well, the problem with referring this investigation to the Inspector General, as good of a guy as he has no prosecutorial or official subpoena powers. So even if he does find rank abuse by Obama officials, or perhaps, who knows, even Obama himself, if he knew about it, the Inspector General will only be able to refer that information to the Justice Department. What good does that end up doing? Well, the president and all of us do have a right to know the names of any and all Americans who were surveilled as part of this anti-Trump hit squad over at the DOJ. And when we finally get to the bottom of all this, we should have the names of any officials, current or former, who were part of what I believe was an obscene abuse of power. They should be held accountable, all of them, to the fullest extent of the law. And of course, the $64,000 question is who else in the Obama administration, other than Jim Comey, the other people who've already been identified, signed off on this, approved of this? How much did Attorney General Loretta Lynch know about Crossfire Hurricane? And, yeah, while there is historical distance between the White House and the DOJ on ongoing cases, kind of independence, you think about it, it kind of is unfathomable that Jim Comey and company would conduct an operation like this one without at least informing the President of the United States, of course, then Barack Obama. As long as these questions hang out there, I really believe that Americans, more and more of them, are going to think that our government tried, and maybe is still trying, to pull off a political coup against the anti-establishment figure, Donald Trump. And that's the angle.